Just FYI. Alrighty. And is it actually recording? Now it's recording. Okay, cool. Welcome to day 1 of full stack web development, React. We're not going to be getting into React today. That will happen down the line. But I do want to talk about what we will be learning today and moving forward. So, goals and expectations for this course. We can kind of breeze through this. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but some of these kind of go without saying. I'm still going to go through them. Putting in the necessary time and effort. We've said repeatedly, anyone can learn how to code, but not everyone does. It does require time. It does require effort. It is a part-time boot camp. It is set up that way so that you guys can continue your lives. You can keep working. You can take care of your kids. You don't have to just completely unplug from the world for 4 months. You can still do everything else. That being said, this will take a certain number of hours through the week. There's 3 hours each class, 2 classes a week, but you're expected to put in at least that much time outside of class, going through the coursework, studying on your own, doing the homework assignments, right? So, I mean, minimum of like 6 hours outside of this course, probably a lot more than that. The more time that you put in, the more you're going to get out of this. It's how it goes with anything. But it's like having a part-time job, right? It's not going to be necessarily 40 hours a week, but it's a good amount of time. And you just have to stick with it. Be humble. That's an important one. We are all coming from different, backgrounds. We're all coming from different points of view, and you will absolutely find that there are different sections of this course where, you're struggling a lot more than some of your peers. You'll find that the reverse will happen, that you will be just like nailing a concept, and your friend might be really struggling with it. Be humble, right? We're all coming from different places, but we're all trying to achieve the same goal, and just be respectful, right? Like, there's no like, oh, I'm so good at this, and like, I can't, we're here to like learn from each other. We're here to help each other. This is not a competition. And that was, by the way, one of my favorite parts about the bootcamp. Was all through college and all through high school, everything was so cutthroat competitive, right? Like, I want to beat that student. I want to beat that person. I want to beat the curve. I want to beat the top, like, right? Very intense. It's a lot. This course is not like that. We're trying to like help each other up. We're trying to like work with each other. So, be humble, work alongside each other. No egos in this class allowed, right? Strength through struggle. Biggest concept I learned, hardest concept I learned, right? It's like going to the gym, lifting those weights, shredding those muscle fibers, and that's how you build up that muscle and that strength, right? It's the same thing, but with your brain. You are going to feel tired sometimes. You are going to, just be so over it sometimes and not want to finish the homework assignment, not want to do this or that, but you push through it. It's strength through struggle. And I think probably the hardest thing that people struggle with is like, you hit a problem, you hit an error, you hit a bug. It's the first time you're seeing this bug. Your brain explodes. Why is my website crashing? What does this error even mean? I don't know. And you are like, somebody help, right? That is instinct, right? You have an instructor, you have your peers. Why shouldn't you ask for help? And you should, but you want to become self-sufficient developers, right? And this was the hardest thing for me because I ask 1,000 questions as a student. I take extensive notes. I'm like, oh, I want to know everything right now. And you won't. It takes time, and you will need to be self-reliant. So when I say self-reliant, I don't mean like sit here and like pound your head against the wall, but, research it, Google that error, figure out on your own what's going on, get your bearings, like get an idea of what it might be, look at some possible solutions, struggle through it. And that is how you build that strength, right? Every single error is going to be, at some point, it'll be the first time you're seeing that error, but pretty soon it's like, you're going to know these errors like the back of your hand. And actually, to clarify, throughout your career, you're going to see errors that you've never seen before, right? Like, it's not like, now that I'm a professional, I'm just like, oh, this coding stuff is so easy and I never, ever, break my code. I break things all the time, it's just now I know how to fix it. And this brings me to my next rule, the 20-minute rule. Sorry, not rule. Goals and expectations, but this is a rule. 20-minute rule is what I call it. And that is that this was one that I was taught in my boot camp. I hated this rule in the beginning. I thought it was so annoying. By the end of it, I understood exactly why my instructor enforced this one. So the 20-minute rule, which I'm not going to be like strictly enforcing, but anyways, is that when you hit it, something, a bug, an error, I'm supposed to add this button and make the form do that, and I don't know how to do that. Whatever it is, spend 20-ish minutes trying to figure it out on your own. Now, and again, 20 minutes, right? I don't mean spend the next hour struggling. And I don't mean if we're flying through a demo and, you're trying to catch up and you like don't understand what's going on and they're like, don't feel like you can ask any questions. But the general idea is when you hit an error, instead of immediately seeing that error and being like, oh, my code broke, hey, can someone help? Just Google it, just look it up, just spend a few minutes trying to solve it. And the amazing thing is, even though, you're completely new at this, or like varying degrees of new, you will be amazed at the number of times you are able to like solve it on your own and just like figure it out. Either by someone's answer on Stack Overflow or, some other forum where you can see that somebody else somewhere, a lot of somebody else's somewhere had the exact same error as you, posted their question, and like 5 people gave like really great answers for it, right? So you'll be surprised at the number of times you're able to fix it on your own and you didn't actually need someone to come and fix it for you. And that will build a lot of your skill set, that will build your confidence. And it's a really important skill because, when you're out in the professional world, like you hit an error. The first time I hit an error in my code, I was like, oh my God, like my code is broken. And I'm like, wait, I can't just like run to my boss every time my code is broken, right? Like I need to figure it out. And I'm really grateful that I had this 20-minute rule and I had to build my strength through struggling on my own for 20 minutes, right? Again, I do not mean like forever. I still asked a buttload of questions and worked with my peers a lot and got help from like my classmates. But I also spent time trying to solve things on my own. And that's going to be really, really important. You will be grateful having sort of put yourself through that now in a course where it's all low stakes, right? This is the most like low stakes environment you're going to be in for this kind of stuff. So now's the time to struggle. Okay, next couple ones. Be present. That's probably the most important one, right? Is just like be here. Be here, putting in the time and effort, and like you're golden, right? I can help just about any student. If you are struggling with React, if you don't understand what a NoSQL database is, if you are feeling demotivated, I can help with all of that. But if you're not here and you're not coming, I can't help with that, right? So just being here is sort of the biggest thing. Be present. You can't really miss classes. A lot of people ask, like, what if I, have an emergency, or what if I get sick, or what if I have too much work, or like whatever. Emergencies happen, and we understand that. Like life happens, and you can't always control, those things. So if you need to miss a class, then you need to miss a class. And we'll understand that. You're not going to get like booted out if you like miss a class, or even if you miss 2, but you will very quickly fall behind. Because if you think about it, again, 96 hours, right? Today is very much like, oh, introductory, here's what we're going to be learning. But moving forward, you're going to be packing in a lot of information every single day. So like when we're learning, intro to JavaScript, for example, and we're going over like what's a function and what is a for loop and da-da-da-da-da, we're going to bang it out in like one session. So if you miss that session, you just missed the entire introduction into JavaScript. Yeah, we're going to be using JavaScript throughout the course, but like you're going to need to play catch up, right? So this course does move quickly. Be here as much as you can. The sessions are recorded. So the nice thing is if you do have an emergency or something and you need to step out, you can watch the recording. So it's not like you can't. It's just I've definitely fallen into the trap in the past of taking classes that are recorded and being like, oh, like whatever, 8 a.m. class, having trouble waking up, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, the session is recorded. Yeah, well, you do that once, and that's 3 hours that you need to watch, which that's it's like a Bollywood movie. That's so long, right? Like 3 hours. I know I'm entertaining, but like I don't know if I'm that entertaining. And you miss 2 sessions, that's 6 hours, right? So it's a lot to catch up on. So just don't fall into the trap of like suddenly having like 6 hours worth of stuff to watch and then, not feeling motivated to watch and then being wildly confused the next session, which you will be if you don't watch or attend. So yeah, be present as much as you can and communicate with your instructors, right? So me or Anne or whoever, is there at the time, if you feel like you can't come or if something's up, just like let us know, and then we can work with you and we can try and like, accommodate as much as possible, but just like keep us informed. And because like, it can be concerning. I've had a student just like dip out for 3 sessions. And after a while I was like, are they alive? Like, should I call someone? Like, I'm like worried about this person, especially with like COVID and everything. Like, you just never know. So, she was fine, by the way. But just like keep us informed and be here as much as you can be.
That just happened to me. I'd signed up for another course and got COVID 2 weeks ago.
You got COVID?
I was in the hospital for a few days, and by the time I think I was trying to catch up on my 3rd week, and it was hopeless. I had like 20 hours to do.
Yeah.
36 hours of class, and I thought, all right, I gave it 18 hours worth, and I'm like, holy cow, it's just hopeless. I just wrote that class off, and thought I'd start fresh with this one. So
yeah. At that point, like, maybe you can join it again later or something like that. But yeah, trying to catch up with like hours and hours. Yeah, it's hard. Also, wow, I'm glad you're okay. You seem to be doing much better.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. That's really scary. It can go in so many directions. I know people who got COVID and it was like allergies, like they could barely tell that they were sick. And then I know people that didn't make it. So yeah, glad you're still here and glad you're present today. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard to play catch up. So definitely be here as much as possible. And ultimately become self-sufficient web developers, right? That is our goal. We are trying to give you the skills that you need to get you out the door in an interview chair, rock that interview, and get a really awesome job, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So all of these goals and expectations are to reach that one ultimate goal. Self-sufficient web developers, IT professionals, what have you, and get out there and start working. So timeline. This is a rough timeline, and I should probably update it because I don't know that it perfectly matches your Canvas course. So you don't need to like write this down or anything, because the Canvas course will really dictate more heavily like what exactly is the timeline of things. But just to give you kind of a rough overview, we do start with HTML and CSS, then we introduce JavaScript, then we go into like JavaScript related libraries and frameworks. I will talk today about what is a library / framework. We get into sort of concept like REST API and that sort of thing. We talk about MongoDB, right, which is the database we will be learning, which is a NoSQL database. We will talk about what all of that means. And then we will, of course, go over React, and that will take a little bit of time on its own. React you can use alone. You can also use it in coordination with other things like Express and MongoDB and everything. But all of these are going to be JavaScript-based libraries and tool sets. By the end of it, we will be doing the full MERN stack. And again, in this presentation, I'll go over kind of what I mean by that. And at the very, very end, we do a final project. So that's a big part of this course, is your final project. One of the things that people struggle with when they graduate from boot camps is that you don't have a 4-year CS degree, and you are competing against people like that. So you need to have something else. If you don't have experience, right? Because you just started and you haven't been working as an IT professional yet, and you don't have a CS degree from a fancy four-year university, what is another thing you can bring to the table? And that is your portfolio of projects, right? The easiest way to prove to someone that you know how to code is to show them physical examples of your coding, right? And interviewers have asked to look at my projects and seen like, what do they do? And like, what languages did I use? And can I speak to the technologies? Can I talk about what I struggled with, what I enjoyed, what did I learn? So just having a repertoire of projects is a big deal. And that doesn't mean that you need like 12 different, really cool projects. Have like 3, be able to walk in with like 3 distinct projects, and that's solid. And one of the things that we do in this course at the end is we have like a project week, and you guys work on a project, and the expectation is that you are building your own full stack application. And even the full stack part is like, that can be fudged a little bit. Some people prefer, to build a really cool application that like doesn't use a database. That has happened. If it's like dependent on like an API or something, okay, half of you don't know what that means, that's fine. But like, anyways, the point is, your project is that you need to build like a full-fledged application that's like usable, and utilizes at least some of the technologies that we learn in this course. It doesn't have to utilize all of them, because you learn a lot. But anyways, that's one of my favorite parts of this course. I will not be your instructor at that point, which I'm kind of bummed about, but I do love looking at the projects, and there's like a presentation day. So I'll maybe like pop into that and see presentations, because that's always fun. And we do a career week. So we talk about interviews and like LinkedIn profiles and resumes and all that jazz. And that's also a really important part, because, you graduate and you need to start looking for jobs, and it's like, how do you do that? So we'll talk about all that fun stuff. Class timings. So the course, that says April 18th. Oh, I made a goof. That's supposed to say August 18th. This is why you shouldn't edit your PowerPoints at weird times of night, which is what I was doing. But April 16th to August 18th is roughly the timeline. The reason it extends a tiny bit past the 4-week point is because we have all these holidays, and I want to make sure you guys get your full 96 hours. So classes are every Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesdays are in the evening, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. after like traditional work hours. Saturdays are 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Yes. Oh my God. For a second, I was like, did I put a.m.? We do have a few holidays. So on May 12th, it'll be Eid al-Fitr for those who are celebrating. So Muslims are going to be completing the holy month of Ramadan, and we'll be celebrating, eating lots of food, and having a ball. So that's going to be on Wednesday, May 12th. So there should not be class then. There also will not be class the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend or the Saturday of Independence Day weekend. We know a lot of people like to go out of town, do all the fun things, or just like relax at home. So those are the 3 holidays that we will have. Installing text editors. So these are the text editors that I was talking about. If you do not have at least one of these installed, you should have all 3. Let me know. Of course, if you are already a coder, you know that you don't like certain text editors. You don't need to like download them and use them and force yourself. They all pretty much achieve the same thing. So one can essentially do what the other 2 can. I recommend downloading all 3 just so that you can like explore them, especially if you've never used them before, because they all have kind of a different feel. They like have like slightly different like packages that come with them. Although in the beginning, that's not going to be super important. In the beginning, it's like, ooh, I like the color scheme of this one. Just FYI, you can customize that on all 3 of them. There's light theme, dark theme, like red theme, all the things. So I will primarily be using Visual Studio Code. I actually don't know what Anne's preferred text editor is. I assume it's VS Code, but I don't know. So I guess be prepared for her using any of them, but it doesn't really matter. So you can use whatever you want. Again, Visual Studio Code has the best debugger. And I find when using the MERN stack, I really, really like it. I think it just kind of ties everything together better. And I think I like its like extensions that it comes with the best. But yeah, anywho, just get at least one of them downloaded, ideally all three, and go ahead and boot it up. Like make sure it's actually working and it's like able to open and everything. And you don't have to like start doing anything with it yet. We'll do all that stuff in a little bit. And if you're having trouble downloading anything, just like shoot me a message or say something. Also, FYI, PowerPoint has like taken over my whole computer, so I actually can't see any of your faces right now. So if you're like physically raising your hands, I don't know. So just like say something. But we're gonna break off in just a few minutes here anyways. So
I had my hand raised.
oh, hold on, let me minimize this. Okay. Yes. What's up?
So should we, if we don't have one of these downloaded, should we download it on our break?
You can go ahead and download it now, actually, and I can send. Let me see. I can just send these in the chat. Also, I'm like totally losing my voice. I haven't talked this much in a while. God. Okay. So I just sent. Oops. Hold on. I just sent all three links in the chat. So if you don't have them downloaded, I would just kick it off now. It'll give you different options if you're on a Mac. Download the Mac version. If you're on Windows, download the Windows version. I don't think it asks for 64 versus 32-bit, but it might. If it does, you can check.
I was about to say I'd give you some water if you need to clear your throat.
Got it. Thank you, though. I should have been like, pass it over, and then just like popped up my glass. Yes, definitely just hit that download, and then it'll just kind of like run in the background, and then by the time we're back from our break, it should be good. Okay, so Mark,
Okay, thank you.
I have Visual Studio Code, and I have Adam. Do I need Sublime as well? Nah. I mean, I'll leave that up to you. Honestly, like those, you just named my two favorite. Although, who was it? AJ, who said that he doesn't like he doesn't like Adam. So who knows? Maybe you'll download Sublime and be like, wow, what was I missing? Can't believe I did not download this before. But like, I don't know that that'll actually happen. Because again, they all do the same thing. So if you want, you can always download it later and kind of like explore it. Yeah, and if you are happy with those two. Sublime can't do anything that like special that like Adam can't do, or Visual Studio Code. Okay, any other questions? No. Alrighty. Again, just for the PowerPoint time, if you have a question, I think just say it because I can't actually see you guys when this thing is like in presentation mode. All right. Moving on through. So yeah, give those a download if you haven't already. So next topic, the World Wide Web, the internet, the cloud, all of the above. Not a lot of people know how it works, surprisingly, or like the average person, if you ask them, like, explain to me how the internet works. Like, I go into Google and I type like kitten and hit image, and I get this collection of kitten images. What just happened? And most people don't know, right? Like how to explain that. Now, I'm going to explain like kind of the basics of it, and you'll understand much better by the end of the course how this works. But I do want to kind of talk about the basics because it's an important thing to know. You know, we use this thing, the internet, like literally 24/7, right? I mean, even when we're not using it, we're using it. Some function is being done. We're getting our emails as we sleep. Our bank app is notifying us of our bills. All these things are happening, and it's like, how does this actually work? So, the internet is not. I had an instructor who was like, I hate the term the cloud. Oh no, it was my boss. It was my old boss. He said that he hated that term because he said it like painted this really odd picture to people of like something in the sky or some like ethereal thing. And like, it's not. The internet is like a collection of connected computers is really what it is. It is a global network of computers. It's a global network of servers, really. And if you think about like Amazon, for example, you go on Amazon.com, I'm sure plenty. We've all been ordering things in quarantine. And we all know about Amazon warehouses that house, you know, millions and billions of products. But there's also Amazon server warehouses. And you walk into this warehouse, and instead of shelves and shelves of like toilet paper and like, I don't know, food, it's warehouses of servers, right? So computer servers. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, think about like the laptop that you're on, the computer that you're on, right? If you're on a laptop, you can't tell what I'm pointing at, but the base of my laptop is the sort of like server of it, right? That's what's actually powering it. The screen is just what I use as a user to actually see what's going on, but a server doesn't have a screen, right? So like these computers that basically make up the internet are just a bunch of screenless computers. It's just the CPU, it's just the server. So if you're on a desktop, you know, they're making CPUs smaller and smaller, but like if you think about like the classic kind of like big black box, that's a server. So there are these massive warehouses of just like a million servers. And if you've ever been in a server room, it's kind of cool because it's just a whole series of these things with like blinking lights. And our hardware professional, AJ will probably be able to tell us more about it, but you know, that's what it is really, is it's just a series of connected computers. Now they're connected in different ways. There's, you know, copper fibers that run underground. There's, you know, these wires, there's radio signals, there's Wi-Fi, there's different ways that they can communicate. But at the end of the day, you've got just a series of servers that are able to communicate with each other. Now you've got the web, right? So the web is made up of clients who are making requests to view things like Google and requesting to view Amazon.com. And you've got the servers that are actually providing that info. So websites are saved as files, right? You save files all the time. You have JPEGs, you have Excel files, you have Microsoft.Word files, but you have .html, .css, and .js files that exist on these web servers. They're just saved there, and that's what makes up these websites. And as a user, you utilize a client in order to access this information. So a client would be not you, like I'm not the client. The client would be the internet connected device and the web browser I'm using to access that information. So the client would be like Firefox or Google Chrome or something, right? Because that's what's really making the request. Yeah, I'm typing it in, but Google Chrome at IP address 181.003. Is sending a request out to some server via my Wi-Fi connection to request to see Amazon.com, right? So I'm sending this request, and the server, which is this like network of computers that's storing these web pages and these web applications, is going to receive that request, and it will send back a response. So that little like picture that I have here, do this so I can use my mouse, but oh yeah, and I have all these notes too, right? You've got the user, right, who's using this browser that sends a request. Now, I just talked about this part right here. I'm also going to talk about this, the domain name server, right? So the DNS, this is what's actually like routing all these requests, right? And it's what's receiving all of these requests and figuring out where do I send that request to? Because if I say, oh, I want to go to Amazon.com, I can't just immediately jump to the server. There has to be that sort of middleman that's like, where is Amazon.com? Because Amazon.com is just the URL. The URL is like the name that we give it, so that we have something to reference that's not 181.053. Right? It's much easier to just remember, oh, Amazon.com, right? But Amazon.com is just a name, the same way that like Samia is a name, but Samia is not where I live. Where I live is whatever my physical address is. Same thing with websites, right? They have a specific IP address that denotes what server on what location and what part of the world it is, right? And the DNS will route that request. So I'll say, hey, I want to go see Amazon.com and send that request via my client, Google Chrome. Google Chrome sends that request. It hits the domain name server. And the domain name server, I just imagine like this like old guy who's like receiving requests and like thumbing through like the yellow pages and is like, oh, Amazon.com. There it is, IP address 200.553. Okay, send the request there. The request gets sent there. It gets processed. There's some security checks. There's, you know, are you allowed to access this web application? Do you have the necessary permissions? Do you have any child lock? Are you trying to look up something sketchy on the internet and your parental lock says, no, you can't? Usually those parental locks are not good enough. And generally speaking, that response will go ahead and get sent over anyways. And as long as you meet the requirements, that response gets sent in the form of these web packets. So this, you'll hear the term request response cycle a lot in this course. And it's the client sending a request, the server coming back with a response that then gets presented in the form of some fancy web page. Every server has a unique IP address, right? That's how we figure out where all of these things are. The same way every person has sort of like a unique physical address. And did we forget anything else? No, we did not. Okay, next page. So how is this actually working? This is basically what I just talked about, right? So the browser searches through the domain name server for that website's IP address, sends this HTTP request to the server, sends this client a copy of that website. After the server approves the request and sends back the response in the form of these data packets. Now, these data packets are in the form of the 3 fundamental languages of the web. And does anyone have any guesses on what the 3 fundamental languages of the web are? We haven't actually talked about it yet, so you were not expected to know. But I know they send some pre-course work. I don't know if anyone actually did it, but let's see. Okay, we got a hand. AJ. Oh, and I see Mark. Mark also. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark put it in there. It's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
It is, in fact, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Thank you both, AJ and Mark. Yes, that's exactly what it is. So the website basically gets sent to your client in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then your client has to do the work to actually compile these data packets together and show a nice, pretty website. And if you've seen, sometimes there's like weird issues, right? Like if you're on Google Chrome versus, say, Internet Explorer, suddenly maybe some of the functionality isn't there, right? You open it up on Google Chrome or Firefox and it's like, oh, it's working perfectly. You open it up on Internet Explorer and like, boom, suddenly, you know, half of the thing is unfunctional or it doesn't quite look right or it's like glitching out. And that's because Internet Explorer is the client that's actually going through the process of whatchamacallit, like compiling these data packets, and the website has to be sort of like, what's the word? Configured. That's the word I was looking for. A website has to be configured for these different browsers. So in fact, you'll sometimes see, you'll get on the website and it'll say, you know, our website does not run on Internet Explorer versions older than 7. And that's because, like, you know, these browsers get updated, they get changed, and some old functionality might get deprecated. So that client just doesn't have the tool set to compile those data packets. Then it's just hop onto a different browser. Why are you on Internet Explorer anyways, right? But just remember, it's the client that's like doing that work, right? And again, when I say client, I'm referring to your web browser. Oops, and I forgot to lower a hand. Let me lower the hand of someone that I can't actually see. Let's see ways to do this. Oh, haha, found it. Lower hand. Okay. All right. It's 10:38. Are we at a good stopping point? Yeah, we're at a good stopping point. I'll talk about, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is like, what is full stack web development? What are we actually learning in this course? What are the different languages and frameworks, and how does that, what do I mean when I say full stack web development, right? All that jazz. So why don't we go ahead and break off here? It's 10:38. Let's meet back at 50. Give you 12 minutes. I usually do somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. So come back at 10:50. If you haven't downloaded those text editors, go ahead and kick them off, right? Because then they'll get the next like 12 minutes to actually run and download. And we'll meet back here in just a little bit. All right. I'll see you guys in 10-ish minutes.
Where do you guys live? Is it mostly in Seattle, Washington area? Or is it kind of throughout?
I
No,
live in Arizona.
I'm in Michigan.
Donnie, I'm here in Gilbert, Arizona.
Oh yeah, I live in Surprise.
Okay, right on. I was
I'm
just
actually in Kent, Washington.
So
okay.
it's like almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, and Wednesday night classes will be from 9 until midnight here.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah, it's only 10:51 here in Washington.
Oh, okay.
I want you guys to know I'm like I really want to learn this stuff, and like I'm pretty much available whenever. So I have a pretty wide open schedule.
Yeah,
If you
me
ever want
too.
to go over anything and talk about it.
Yeah.
Struggle. I'm this kind of I quit my job mine a month ago, and I'm just trying to absorb as much as I can. So it'll be interesting. I
Well,
look
we
forward to
can
this.
do this. If we work together, we can do this. Like, AJ and I think one other person are, pretty advanced. And I have some knowledge too, but it's been from years ago. But I've been self-studying before class started. But we can definitely do this if we work together.
Yeah, one team, one fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Donnie, I was just over there last night at Bonfire Craft Kitchen. I like that place. Had a bunch of food, kind of overate last night.
Yeah, that's a good place, man.
What operating systems is everyone using?
I'm using Windows 10.
Okay, same here. Right on.
I got my Mac PowerBook.
Nice.
Windows here.
Okay.
I think I have Windows 7. I'm not sure.
So lately, I've been struggling on like how to get Debian 10 as like my primary instead of Windows 10. I mean, Windows is awesome, but it's always good to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I have one quick question because I know she was saying that it'd be best if you had like dual monitors. Are you able to like have a dual monitor with a laptop?
Yeah. For sure.
Okay. You just plug it into your laptop, or
Yeah. I mean, you could get. I don't know if you have like a HDMI hookup.
Yep, you need an
yeah, I
HDMI
see
port.
I see a port on here for HDMI.
Yep.
Yeah. So you
Get
could
your
definitely
monitor.
like.
Yeah, just get your monitor and then connect it both ends to HDMI, and you should be good.
You know,
Okay, what size do you guys recommend for a side monitor like that?
I have a
ooh.
big one because I don't see very well. They're like my glasses. I don't know if you can see them. They're like super thick. So
Yeah.
I have a big
See,
monitor.
and mine's smaller.
Yeah. Sorry for
So
keeping
yeah,
her.
whatever your preference is, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought one of them super ultra wide ones. Wide. I'm looking over here, but my laptop's over here somewhere.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Sorry that took a little while. I got an ill-timed delivery I had to go and deal with. But we are back. Hopefully, you guys can still see my screen. Oh, I see a hand up. Mark, do you have a question?
Samaya, did you send the emails or no?
I actually don't have
Okay.
the emails that you have, so I did reach out to Faze and say, hey, can you forward me that email so that I can send it to you guys? And just to clarify, what email are you talking about? Because someone else had asked me about like the intro email with like,
Canvas.
oh, with Canvas. I see. No, I did not actually. I will go ahead and
I'm looking at my Gmail. I haven't gotten anything anywhere.
I can do that. Okay, so Jesse, it's really clear. It says that we sent it, but let's. Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think my microphone wasn't working for a while.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
Definitely
Hi,
working now.
hi everybody. I'm from Seattle. Okay.
Well done.
Yeah, I can hear you now, Mark.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. Was it not working before?
Yeah, I think it was off my headset actually.
I see. And Jesse, did you send or do I have your email? I actually don't think I have your email. Could you drop your email in the chat? Let's see. Okay, there we go. Well, let's see if I can add you guys. So I'll test it out. I'll send you one, and let's see if this works.
You need mine too?
Yeah, if you could drop if you did not get a Canvas link or you're having trouble logging into Canvas, drop your email down, and let's see if we can get you guys added. Jesse, what is your last name? Boudreaux. Reau. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so Jesse, I just sent you another email. Let's see if that works. Maybe give it a minute or so. Let's see if it comes through. And then I'll get the rest of you guys added. And actually, Jenny, I'll add you as well. And Jenny, your last name is Cunningham?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just see if this works. How do you spell that? All right. Cunningham, that's Cunningham.
Nope. Okay, let me see if I can spell my own last name.
IUN. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, where did that U come from? Oh, what a unique spelling for Cunningham. Okay. Typo. So glad I clarified before I added you to the course like this. Oh man, I'm sure it can be changed. Okay, so I just added both of you. Let's see if that works. Let me know in a few minutes if that email comes through, and then I'll get anybody else out. Is there anyone else who is not added on the Canvas course and needs to be? Well, I mean, if you're not added, you need to be. Everyone else is good. Okay, cool. If go ahead and make sure you can access the Canvas, and you can log in and everything. And if you can't, drop your email, and we will figure it out. Alrighty. So diving right back into what we were talking about, we just got done kind of talking about brief rundown of like, how does the internet work? What is a client? What is a server? What is a request response cycle, right? What does an IP address actually refer to? All that jazz. Now, when it comes to full stack web development, what does that mean? I'm going to go into presentation mode again. So again, if you have a question, just shout it out. So full stack web development. What are we referring to here? We are referring to, when we say full stack, we're talking about every aspect that goes into building this application, from the front to the back to the database and everything in between. Actually, those are really the only three things: the front end, the back end, and the database. So what am I referring to here? The front end, that is the client side. That is the user-facing side, the user interface, UX, UI design, right? It is the part that the user actually interacts with and sees, right? So this would be like the actual design of your application, the look, the feel, the interactions, and basically everything that you see in a website. So that would be the HTML, the CSS, and the sort of client-side JavaScript. JavaScript can actually run on both ends. And we'll talk about how it's able to do that. But HTML, CSS, and JavaScript collectively put together the client side, and that is the front end of your web application, right? You also have the back end. So that's the server side. That's the part that exists sort of behind the scenes, right? It's the under the hood work that's happening. That's the logic that's driving, you know, if there's any algorithms written into your application. If you think about something like Google, right? So you as a user, when you pull up google.com on your client, your web browser, and you make a search and you say, I would like to see Red Sox, whatever. Google, you are on the front end, you're able to see the UI, right? You can see the search bar, you can type it in, you can see the drop-down options that come up, predicting what your search is. Did you mean this or that? You can click the button, you can see the results, right? That's all the front end. But what about the logic powering, you know, what search results to display where? You know, the logic that determines that they're able to predict, did you mean Red Sox that we can wear, or Red Sox, the team, or did you mean that obscure movie title that was created in 1998, or, you know, whatever. So it has its sort of underlying logic to You know, both figure out kind of what did the user want, whether it has those like algorithms or just like really straightforward, you know, the client clicked on image, so now I need to serve up the images. The client clicked on news. Now I need to switch and toggle over to the news section, right? But all of that logic exists kind of under the hood. Like the user can't see any of that. That's the server side. So that's often utilizing languages like Python and Java and C# and Ruby and that sort of thing. Python, Java, and C# are probably the three most popular. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, there's also like C and C++ and everything. But those are some of the biggest ones. Python is really big in the like research science side of things and the data analysis and statistics side of things. Python R is another really popular one. But for a lot of the applications that you use, you know, something like Netflix, for example, I think is powered by Java. Something like, what do you call it? I think Amazon, actually the Amazon website, fun fact, I don't think, someone just told me this, I didn't fact check them on this, but apparently the Amazon website doesn't use like any sort of framework. So it's using pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is like really weird. That's so weird nowadays. Everybody uses a framework. But anyways, any kind of Microsoft product is going to be powered by C#, right? So all of these languages are doing different things. In our course, we're not going to be learning Python or Java or C#. We're going to be learning JavaScript. JavaScript was designed originally, back when it was created, was intended to be used on the front end, right? It's a language of the web. It sort of powers the user interactions. It wasn't originally intended to be a powerful server-side language, but they sort of turned it into that. And we're going to talk about how they're able to do that. But in this course, we're going to be using JavaScript all the way through. Now you also have the database, right? So that's the information storage portion of things, right? If users are saving accounts, if they are, you know, if you go on Amazon and you add stuff to your cart, and then you favorite it, you know, you save it so that you can look at it later, but you don't want to buy it right now. All of that is being stored in the database. There's a lot of different kinds of databases. Generally, they break down into SQL databases or SQL and NoSQL databases. And we're not going to be going over SQL databases. If you do have any experience with SQL, that will be useful because all databases have sort of similar themes to them in that they have columns and there are rows and there are tables and that sort of thing. Different terminology for different kinds of databases and definitely different functionality. So we will be learning a NoSQL database, and that database is going to be MongoDB. But full stack, again, refers to the sort of full gauntlet of technologies that are used in this stack. So a full stack web developer is expected to be able to understand and manipulate the front end, the back end, and the database, right? So by the end of this course, that's what you're going to be able to do. So let's talk a little bit about each of these languages, because you've heard the name now over and over. But I don't know how much you know about the individual languages. Now, in your pre-course work that they sent out, you should have been given sort of links to a couple different courses, and there's some Code Academy courses, right? Those are just free courses that go over HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you did do that, that's going to be a big help. The next couple weeks are going to be a breeze for you. If you didn't do that, it's going to be a little bit harder, but still not too hard to pick up. HTML and CSS is a really nice kind of starting point into coding because it not only introduces you to the concept of coding and kind of like exercising and flexing that part of your brain, which you maybe haven't ever, but it also gives you a visual to connect to what you're coding. And I'll talk about what I mean by that. So what do each of these things refer to? Because I mean, a website is a lot of things, right? There's the look, there's the feel, there's the style, there's the functionality, right? There's so many things, there's the content of it. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, if you actually break them apart, we have kind of an analogy. I have kind of an analogy that other people like to use too, and that's like, if you imagine a person being a website. So HTML is an acronym. Computer science loves their acronyms. Everything is an acronym. Half the developers don't know what half those acronyms even stand for. Honestly, like these acronyms get used so much, but it's important to know them. I think it's good to know them, and you will be expected to know them in interviews. So HTML refers to hypertext markup language. Hypertext is a subset among the markup languages. There's actually other markup languages. There's HTML, there's XML, there's another one, but you're going to be using HTML. HTML is what powers pretty much 100% of the websites that you see. So hypertext markup language, that really creates the content and the overall kind of structure and layout of your website. So if you think about what you're seeing on screen right now, if you can imagine that this was not a PowerPoint, but in fact a static web page, what I mean by static is it's not, you can't interact with it. Like you hover, nothing happens, you click, nothing happens. It's totally static, meaning unchanging. In comparison to like a dynamic or a more functional website where you can click on stuff, you get drop-down menus, maybe there's a search bar, right? You as a user can actually interact with it. But let's pretend we're looking at a static web page, right? You go to www.skillspirewebfundamentals.com or .edu. So we're a nonprofit organization. Anyways, and you get this, right? The HTML portion of it would be the words that you're seeing on the screen, the actual physical content. So the web fundamentals, probably not that underlined, but the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? The title, the bullet pointed list, the picture, the image that you see off to the right, okay? So the actual physical content that you're seeing, that's HTML. Also the general layout, the fact that the header is right at the top, that the title comes right under it, that the image is over here, and the, you know, the, whatchamacallit, not drop down list, bullet point list is on the left, right? That's all gonna be HTML. But then you have CSS. So CSS is the cascading style sheet. That is the set of style rules that dictate the look and feel of the website. So that would be the colors that you're seeing, the font that you're seeing, the size that you're seeing, the fact that the second header is so much bigger than the header above it, the fact that the bullet points aren't classic black circles but little blue triangles, the size of the image, the fact that the image and the list and the text are perfectly side by side, and the exact same size almost, right? All of those would be dictated by CSS. The fonts, the, you know, bolded or italicized, all of that, right? So if we think about like our analogy of human, HTML would be like the stuff that makes up a person, right? The bones, you know, the tissues, the ligaments, everything, all that interconnected stuff, that would be like the HTML. The CSS would be more like the aesthetics, right? The changeable aesthetics, the hair color, the eye color, the skin color. People go tanning, right? Changeable to a degree. The clothing style, right? The shoes, right? So the way that a person chooses to present themselves, that would be like the CSS. Do they have a haircut or not? And then you have JavaScript, right? So this is our static web page. It's not doing anything, at least in our analogy or our example. But if I was able to, let's say, click on these bullet points and get a little drop-down list for each one. And if I hover over a bullet point list, maybe it lights up to give me that sort of interaction and let me as a user know, hey, I acknowledge that you're hovering over this. Since I lit up, that kind of indicates to you that this is a clickable link and something will happen. When I click on a link and it takes me to an entirely different page. If I submit a form and it actually goes somewhere and I get some sort of feedback about the info that I just submitted in the form. All of that is JavaScript. JavaScript adds the interactivity and the functionality to a web page. So it handles those like user interactions and those fancy web features that you see. 99.99% of the things that you see on the web are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? Technically speaking, you don't need JavaScript. You can have a static web page, but like how many static web pages do we actually see nowadays? And there are ways around JavaScript, but practically no one uses them. Literally 99.9% of what you see on the web is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And any web developer worth their salt knows HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in and out. So that's going to be a big part of this course. HTML and CSS gets focused on more in the beginning, but they're a little bit easier to pick up. So honestly, once we get those down, we just kind of move into JavaScript. CSS, I will say there's a lot to it. There's a lot that you can do with it. There's the basics, and then you can like elevate it to a whole different degree. So like front end web designers are really, really good at CSS and really good at manipulating the UX, UI, the style and design of a page. And it ends up being really, really important. If you think about like, as you know, as a user on the web, when you go to different websites, you care about like how slick it looks, how modern it looks. If you open up a website where you're trying to buy a product or research something, and you see that this website looks like it was designed on WordPress in, you know, the early 2000s, you might not be as impressed. You might not be as keen on trusting this company or this website because you're like, why do they not have a modern website, right? But if you hop onto a different website and it's fast and it's slick looking and it has all the sort of modernized components, people tend to trust those websites a little bit more. Like there's a lot of research that goes into this. So UX UI is actually a really, really big up and coming field. It's only going to get bigger. So HTML and CSS is what we're going to be diving into today. Today, probably just HTML. Next week, Wednesday, you'll be getting more into CSS. So hypertext markup language, HTML. What do we know about it? It's used to communicate the content, the overall structure of the web page using a language called markup. HTML uses something called tags to define content type. All of this is going to make a lot more sense when we're actually doing it, which we're about to do, which is why I'm going to say go ahead and power up those text editors if you haven't already. Visual Studio Code, Atom, whatever your choice is, doesn't really matter. You can pop up a couple of them and play around with two if you want. But we're actually going to start coding some stuff out. So HTML, again, uses tags to define content type. So when you see, again, pretending that this is like a static web page, the fact that you've got this big header that's kind of like in this big bold blue, and then you've got the text that's a little bit smaller, well, ignoring the blue part for a second because that's actually determined by CSS, but the fact that you've got a big header, right, and it's all caps, and you've got the sort of paragraph section that's set in bullet point list form, all of that is dictated by HTML. So HTML has a way to define exactly what kind of content you're looking at, which then gets you tied into the actual styling of it. These tags aren't actually displayed. They're just for your browser to be able to correctly display this web page. And your web browser will see, oh, this is tagged title, so I'm going to present it like a title. This is tagged list item, so I'm going to present it like a list item with a little bullet point list. This is tagged unordered list, so it's going to be a bullet point list because an ordered list tag would mean that I need to throw numbers on it, right? So this is all for your browser to see. So let's go ahead and actually, whoopsies, test some stuff out. So go ahead and open up your text editors. I will open up mine as well. Okay, that's an old one. You can ignore that. That's got a lot going on. Let's look at this guy. So if you were to open up Visual Studio Code, this is what it would look like, right? Whew. I need to remember to actually drink my tea so I don't lose my voice on you guys. You got this little welcome screen, right? And it gives you all these options on how to customize it. You can choose a color theme, right? If you don't like the look, if you're like, this dark mode sucks, I need it in light mode, I'm just gonna let you know right now, the more you code, if you're coding 24/7, you're gonna want it in dark mode. Nobody wants to look at a giant white screen 24/7, right? It's not great for your eyes. But anyways, you can customize the color scheme. If you love the look and feel of Atom and you're like, God, this is so cool, but I love the functionality of Visual Studio, but I wish it could look like Atom. I'm pretty sure there's literally a color theme that's like Atom dark theme. Like, they're very customizable. So anyways, you can play around with all of this stuff. You can find and run all the commands, right? So go through this on your own time. For today, we're just gonna go ahead and start a new file. You can either click new file, or if you're on a Mac, you can do Command N, right? If you're on Windows, you can do Control N. When I say basic computer literacy, by the way, this is part of what I'm referring to. So basic keyboard shortcuts, right? Like, do you know that Control S or Command S saves a document, right? Do you know that Control N or Command N open up a new tab in whatever application you're in? This is basic computer literacy, and you are kind of expected to know that. In this course, I'm really, really nice, and I mention it, but also I've had students in the past that are like, how do you hotkey save a document, right? And different things like that. But I will say there's an expectation that you should know, right? Because if you're going to be coding, like, I wouldn't jump straight into like building a rocket, right? I'd probably like need to learn physics or something first, or like engineering. I don't know, right? So anyways, if you don't know basic computer literacy, take a course on that and get up to speed there, and also let me know, and then we will go from there. Anyways, so we've opened up a new document. I can type, right? When we say text editor, there's a pretty literal term. Like, it's just a place where you can edit text. Notepad is technically speaking a text editor. Notepad++ is a slightly better text editor that is very similar to Notepad. Something like Visual Studio Code or Atom or Sublime goes a little beyond that. It can edit text, it can manipulate text, but it can also come with these sort of like packages and extensions that allow you to run your programs, right? So not only can I type code in here, but I can actually run that code and see my program run, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. Today we're going to be exclusively doing HTML. So if I just type in HTML, and I tab over, like I think the slide said right before this, nothing happens. And that's because I skipped a little bit of direction here. If I just type in HTML, nothing happens because it's an untitled file. I'm going to exit out of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and save it first. And I'm going to find, so we're going to want to set up your folder structure a little bit. You're going to want like a SkillSpire folder. I don't care where you keep it, on your desktop, in your documents, on your C drive, somewhere else. Like, I would recommend either desktop or documents, like somewhere that it's going to be like quick and easy to access, right? Because you're going to be getting into this folder all the time. So find whatever place in your memory that feels like the most appropriate to save this, and go ahead and create a SkillSpire folder, right? So if I was on desktop, I could just create a new folder and say, okay, I'm going to create a SkillSpire folder. I'm not going to do this because I already have a SkillSpire folder, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. I'm in my SkillSpire folder. I am going to go ahead and create a new folder and call it April 2021 MERN. I'm titling it this because I teach a bunch of different courses, as you can see, my September 2020 cohort, my January 2020 cohort, my January 2021 cohort. So in order to keep it straight, I like kind of doing this April 2021 MERN. You can do this too. I will leave that entirely up to you. If you think you're going to be taking more SkillSpire courses, I would recommend doing this. If you think that you're going to be one and done, you're never going to do this again, which I don't think you can know just yet, you don't have to do this. You can skip this step. I'm going to go ahead and create this folder. In here, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Web Funds. You are going to want to do this. So Web Funds, Web Fundamentals, if you want to spell it all out, you can do that. I like calling it Web Funds. This is what's going to hold onto your HTML, CSS, and basic sort of intro to JavaScript work. So go ahead and create a Web Funds folder. I'm going to create that. In here, I would create another folder. I'm going to call it HTML. Because we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? With me, and then next with Anne. But you want to be able to keep all the files straight, right? It's a lot of coding that you're going to be doing, and it gets real hard to keep everything straight if you don't keep it all nicely organized. So I'm going to go ahead and create an HTML folder, right? So hopefully you're following along. Let me know if you're not. In my HTML folder, I am going to create my document. So no more folders. We're done with folders. I'm just going to go ahead and title this Hello World. .html. Now, a couple things here. One, as you can see, I have no spaces in here. right? I'm not doing hello space world.html. I'm not doing hello world space.html. Just all one word, hello world.html. A couple other things. I'm on a Mac, so I don't have an automatic file extension. I have to add it in physically right here. If you are on a Windows, there's another little window down here where I've got save as and tags. You guys don't have tags. You've got save as and you've got like file type or like file extension type. And it's a little drop down list, and you can see like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, TXT, JPEG, whatever. You've got all these options. If you select HTML, it will tack a .html onto here. So if you are on a Windows and you go down here and you select HTML, up here, don't include it. No dot, no file extension, just the title of your file, hello world. The reason is, if you do a hello world.html and then you also select HTML, now you're going to have hello world.html.html, which is kind of...
How do I undo that?
So this is why I'm like, I need to explain it quickly because someone always does it right before I say it. Okay.
I got SkillsFire, Web Fundamentals, HTML, hello world.html.
Okay, yeah. That's right. That's correct. Hello world.html with just one .html.
Okay.
Quite correct. You're good. Cool. I explained it fast enough. If you did name your file something funky, like not like you can't change it, you totally can. Not carving things in stone here. So I'll go ahead and create this file. All right, hello world.html. If you did the Code Fellows courses, you've seen Hello World. If you've done any kind of programming, you've heard Hello World. Everybody hears Hello World. What the heck is Hello World? Hello World is when the internet, way back in the day when the internet had been first created and we were still using like dial-up connections and everybody had those AOL disks to test out the internet for 30 minutes and that sort of a thing. So back in like, actually this was predates that. This was probably like, I don't want to give the wrong time, the 80s? I don't know. Anyways, when the internet like first became a thing, the first time that somebody in one location was able to send a message to a different computer in another location and the internet was born, the first message they ever sent was hello world. Put it out there. And it was this really, really cool definitive moment and like truly a turning point in history, and life as we know it was never the same. And so because of that, hello world is like the term that you hear all the time. Jesse, you have a question.
This is being recorded. We can go back and review it. I can redo it if I screwed up. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is being recorded. Yes. Yes, indeed. So you will be good to go. And I can show you, I mean, you can also like, can I edit it in here?
I don't see what you're seeing right now. I have an open SkillsFire folder.
So make sure you created a file and then you're saving that file.
Save code file.
Yeah, so like even if I wanted to create a new file, I can hit Command U, I can hit Command S and save. It'll drop me into some folder. I can navigate to the correct one. It's going to navigate me to the folder I just created, and I can create like test.html. And like now I have a new one. And every new file that you create is going to pop up over here. Even if you like only created the folder and didn't create a file, you can still go ahead and create a file and save it there. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this guy. So as I pointed out before, when I had something like this and I type in HTML and I tab over, absolutely nothing happens. Why? Because it's an unsaved file. There's no clear file extension. Your text editor is like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. Now that I've saved it with a .html file extension, not only will my browser understand how to interpret this file, my text editor understands how to interpret this file. My text editor it's like savvy, and it's like, oh, I see a .html extension. I need to treat this as HTML. Now when I type, ooh, now I get this IntelliSense. I get these auto predictions of, do you want this? Do you want that? Now, these are all different sort of like commands that will dump in some boilerplate code for you. And we are going to use these because you do not need to hand type this stuff every time. You can go onto either the second HTML with this little like black box, or drop down here where you see HTML5. 5 is just the latest version of HTML. It really doesn't matter. I'm gonna go with HTML, the basic. I'll just do this. Okay, so I hit enter, boom, I see a bunch of stuff on the screen. What's going on here? So first of all, we see this right here, doctype.html. This is what's called the document declaration, right? This is a sort of decorator that hangs out at the top of your document so that when you dump this into a browser, or when a browser has access to this file and tries to process this file, it's going to see that right at the top. And it's going to see that and say, oh, the document type that I'm looking at is HTML. I need to interpret it as such, and I need to process it as an HTML file. Not an XML file, not a JavaScript file. This is an HTML file, right? Now, granted, if you delete this, 9 out of 10 browsers are not going to break and are still going to, sorry, hit this HTML tag and immediately know, okay, this is an HTML file. And it's not going to get super confused. But some browsers will, like Internet Explorer, probably. So it's customary to include it. You should always include it. And if you just type in HTML and hit tab, or drop down and hit tab or enter, it drops it in for you, right? So you don't have to worry about typing all that stuff up. But the first thing you're always going to see, doctype.html. Sorry, doctype HTML. The next thing you see is this sort of these series of what are called elements or tags. So this right here, this is an element. An element is like a sort of division within HTML. That's a bad explanation. An element is a type of content that will be defined by the word that you see in the tag. The tag is this guy right here. So where you see caret, body, caret, that's what's called a body tag. This down here, this is also a body tag. But if you notice, this guy is just body. This guy has a little like closey slash, like a forward slash in front, right? So this is an opening tag. This is a closing tag. And together, these make up the body element, and the entire body of my HTML is going to be housed within this one body element, or between this opening and this closing tag. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we're actually looking at here. You've got this element that's right up above head. You've also got this overall HTML element. Everything is going to be housed within this one HTML set, or this HTML element, but you are then going to be split between the head and the body. The difference here is that the head is what's called metadata, so it's not anything that the user is going to see. This is just for the browser. This is just so that the client understands exactly what's going on. So you've got, you know, the like HTML type, you've got the, this is a different one. Okay, you've got the content saying that it's, if we see Internet Explorer, that equals Edge, right? Because they changed the name. You see, let's see, I'm gonna show you a different HTML. If I go to like HTML5, you'll see slightly different things. You'll see this bit right here, right? Like language equals English. You can set that language to different things. This isn't super critical. I think if you leave it out, like you'll see it's not included here. The default is English. Although if you go to a different country, I don't know, it might be different. Maybe it's like determined by your IP address, but anywho, this is all the metadata. So this is stuff that the user is not going to see. This is the stuff that's not displayed on the client side. Everything in the body will be displayed. And I'm going to show you an example of that in just a second. And Yoko, you have a question, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, can you just make it a little bit zoom? I mean,
oh, my goodness. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, hold on. Okay, is this,
yeah,
should I zoom in more?
yeah, it is much better. And so, I mean, at the first you said, I mean, we have to create a file. So, like, I mean, how does it work? I mean, can you show me back again or not?
Same thing. You can either do, same thing we did before. You can either go to File, New File, and click this, or
Okay.
as you'll see, when you click File and you look at New, all the keyboard shortcuts are like right off to the side. So I'm on a Mac, so I can hit Command N and that'll pop up a file, right? If you're on Windows, you need to do Control N. Oh, right. That didn't work because I'm on the Mac. But if you're on a Windows, you do Control N and then that'll pop up. And you save it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So in the body, again, oh, and one more thing. So you can see that there's this little dot here, right? What does that dot mean? I've done a bunch of things, and now I see this dot. This dot means that your file is not yet saved. As soon as I save it, so I hit Command S, boom, that dot goes away, now it's a little X. That dot is an indicator for you, letting you know that you've done work that is not yet saved. This is very important because a lot of people will make some change, like blah, 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 do a bunch of things, look at their browser and nothing's happening. And they're like, what's going on? Like, I typed all this code, I can see it on my screen, it's not working, it's broken. And it's like, nah, dude, you just forgot to save your file. So that happens more than you would think. Easy way around this, by the way, you can go into File and you can turn on autosave. So I do that, and now when I make changes, it's just automatically saving, like every second.
That's that.
Yeah, so I just turn on autosave so I don't have to worry about it. The only tricky thing there is I like occasionally use other text editors that I don't have autosave turned on, and then I forget. Like, I'm not used to saving my work because like I had autosave on this one.
So when you have autosave on and you like hit enter for the next line, you can just refresh the browser and it should show the changes.
Exactly. It'll reflect all the changes.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So let's actually type something out. If I open this in my browser, and the nice thing is if you are using Visual Studio Code, I think this is a default option where you can right click and see open in browser, like open in default browser. And then
I have a question. I have my Hello World on the screen, but I don't have the doc type up there. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm just used to it always being there, but did I miss where the doc type comes up?
Do you have all of this other stuff like this?
No, I don't have any of it.
So I got this by doing HTML, like typing HTML, and don't just hit enter. You hit enter and then this is all you have, right? Okay. That's all. Type in HTML and then drop down. So like choices number 2 or 3 will get you the actual like rest of the boilerplate code. So if I do that, now I can see like all of this stuff.
Oh, got it.
Okay, so in the body, what was I saying? I don't know what I was saying, but, oh, that's right. Okay, so we're gonna wanna drop this into a browser. If you don't see this, if you right click and you don't see this option, try it over here, or click on the little dot dot. Don't click on the dot dot dot, that doesn't do anything. Does the right click do anything? Nope, okay, anyways. If you don't see this option, because I can do this and it'll just pop it up, popped up on my other screen over here in Visual Studio. If you don't have that, you can also just drag and drop. So click down, hold on to this, like hold the click down, and then drag it into the browser. And you'll see that little like arrow that, I just pointed as if you can see where I'm pointing. That little white arrow that's popping up, that's like dropping it into the browser, right? And it'll just pop up new tab. Now, a couple different things. Thing number 1, obviously there's nothing on the screen. Why is there nothing on the screen? Because our body is empty, or at least my body is empty. I didn't have anything typed in here. Thing number 2, you see this bit right here that says page title. Page title, what is that? Well, normally if I go to like, let's see, what's an example? Like Amazon.com, I click on that, you can see the page title, Amazon.com/Prime Video, right? That's giving the user an indication because when you have 5,000 tabs open, like I so often do, I don't want to have to figure out what everything is. I can see, oh, this is the CDC, vaccine comparison. This is the weather forecast for Bellevue. This is like Amazon. I was shopping for a windsock so I can tell how windy it is. Wow, good thing I don't have anything super sketchy up. Just kidding, I wouldn't. But those page titles are like to give you an indicator of like what's happening on these tabs, right? So if you go back into your HTML document really quickly, I had mentioned that the head includes a bunch of metadata that the user and the client don't actually see. That's true-ish. That's true, but there's one thing. There's one caveat that you do actually see, and that's this bit right here. And as you can see, it says page title. We're going to delete this, and we're going to change this to Hello World. All right, something nice and easy. Make sure you save it, or if you have autosave on, like I do, it is automatically saved. You're going to hop back into here, and you're going to do a hard refresh. So that would be either clicking this refresh button, and now you can see Hello World, or the shortcut is Command-Shift-R if you're on a Mac, Control-Shift-R if you're on a Windows. And now you can see the actual page title is Hello World instead of just saying that default page title. All right, so that's the one part of the head that the user does actually get to see. Everything else will be in the body. Are there any questions so far? Nah, you with me? All right, great. We will plow on through. Now, I can start typing stuff into the body, and that should show up. Obviously not in real time. I will have to save my document, but I can say something like, hello world, this is my first, I can type, HTML document. Also, I'm gonna minimize this. You can also like click that and just shrink it down completely, because I like keeping it closed unless I'm actively accessing something. Yeah. So hello world, this is my first HTML document. Hop back into here, do a hard refresh, and boom, now I can see it. Hello world, this is my first HTML document, right? So whatever you're putting in the body is going to be displayed as content on your currently static web page. And Jesse, you have a question.
To be clear, when these recordings, are they available on the canvas? Access it, or how would I find the recording?
Good question. So they will be put on YouTube, and then the link will be sent to you guys. I'll ask your other instructor how she prefers it. I think this one will probably either be dropped into the Slack or like emailed to you or something. But generally, yeah, you will receive a link because it saves it in Microsoft Teams. But I think unless you have like a Teams account, you can't access it that way.
I got the Microsoft Teams account. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you lost me. I'm just saying I'm
no. I mean, you want to know how to access it.
Yeah, I want to be able to go back and
Totally. And I mean, that's like a really good, what do you call it? I like totally lost my train of thought. I got an email right when I was talking. I hate it when this happens. But yeah, right, recordings. So even if you've watched, I mean, even if you were attending the class, it definitely helps to like go back. If you're like, oh, there was that one part of the demo that I totally got lost and I was debugging and then they skipped ahead and I don't know what happened after that. I'm going to go back and watch that like 20-minute segment or whatever. Or she gave an explanation on React and I just need to watch that a few more times to really absorb it. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you will absolutely get access to the recordings. I'm just not sure how Anne wants to do it, so I have to clarify with her. But I think you'll probably just get like an email sent with the recording. Yeah, but I think that's what I'll do. Yeah, for sure. And who has a question? Donnie, you have a question. No, not Donnie?
Yes,
Oh.
yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So yeah, I lost internet there for like 10 minutes right in the beginning when you were doing this. But yeah, that doesn't affect the recording, right? I can go back and
yeah, you'll be fine.
watch what I missed. Oh, okay.
All you'll see is that Donnie suddenly bloop, drops out of the recording. And you hop back in, but no worries there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I lose internet, that will affect the recording. But knock on wood, that hasn't happened in a while. But yeah, all we did so far was just like created a file, talked about kind of what this detailing is, and then added our first bit of content into the body, refresh the page, and we can see it. So again, a lot of people will be like, you know, they'll type something. Oh, rats, I have autosave on. Okay, whatever, pretend I don't. And then they'll refresh their page, you know, and then they'll be like, well, nothing happened. I see that my page refreshed, but my work isn't popping up. What's going on? It's because you forgot to save it, silly. So you save it, you refresh, boom, now it's there. Now, next thing to point out. as you can see, damn, I normally poll before I actually show you guys. But I normally ask like, okay, I typed it like this. How do you think it's going to end up looking on screen? I gave it a new line, right? I gave it a whole line break. I gave it like a whole extra space, typed. But as you can see, even though this format is like sort of like above and below each other, these two sentences appear right next to each other in my actual browser. Why is that? Because HTML doesn't care about adding a bunch of spaces, or I mean, it'll care if I do something like this, because that will show up here. Oh, I lied. Should have tested that out before I said that. Yeah, too. Rewind that part. HTML does not care about spacing whatsoever. It will just treat it like a singular space, won't do anything weird, doesn't care about how you're trying to format it, because it has other ways to care about how you're formatting it. If I want these to actually be two separate lines, which they are not right now, then I need to declare them in two separate HTML elements, which brings us to our very first element. You've got the paragraph tag. Now, all of these tags are pretty indicative of what they are. So a paragraph tag is a P, a header tag is an H. An unordered list tag is UL. A list item is LI, right? So all of these are very telling of what they're supposed to be. So a paragraph tag is P. If I hit enter, I get this handy dandy opening and closing tag. I'm just going to grab this line. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to paste it into here. And then the format is going to get all weird. That's okay. You can like either fix it by hand, or I always forget this. There's an auto format hotkey, and it is Alt-Shift-F. Oh my God, did I remember that correctly? Wait, no, I didn't. Damn it. Command-Shift-F. That wasn't it. Control-Shift-F. No. Command-Alt-Shift-F. No, that wasn't it. Okay, well, I'll Google it. But because I normally use Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, I don't remember what it is in Visual Studio Code. I could have sworn. Wait, am I wrong? Alt-Shift-F. Alt-Shift-F. It is Alt-Shift-F. Oh, huh. I got it right the first time, guys. Okay. For some reason, it just left this guy hanging down there. I don't know why I did that. Okay, there we go. So Alt-Shift-F will auto-format it for you if you're using Visual Studio Code. If you're using like Atom or Sublime, it's different. I don't know what it is then. But anywho, if I do this, not a lot will change, but let's go ahead and add a paragraph tag. I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy. There's a lot of hotkeys, by the way, right? Like if I do Command-Shift left arrow, it highlights the whole line, right? If I do Command-Shift space, that does something completely different. Never mind. Never mind. I changed my mind. Don't hit that button. Ah. Okay. Jesus. All right. Anyways, hotkey lessons are over. Command V will paste it, right? All the hotkeys. Now my two sentences, well, technically three sentences, are split up in two separate elements. Now, if we get back into here, we give a nice hard refresh. Voila, they are actually showing up as two different paragraphs in my document as well. Because again, your browser does not know how to interpret things on its own. It needs HTML to tell it what to do, to define the content type and also define the structure for you. Had I put this all in one paragraph tag, right? Like if I add any other stuff here, I am adding so much. That is also going to be part of this line, right? Because it's all wrapped up in the same tag set. It's all wrapped up in the same element. Collectively, this is one element. This is like the paragraph element. This is a tag, like the little caret tag. This is an opening tag. This is a closing tag. Most tags have an opening and a closing, right? That's generally how it is. But there are some tags that are called like self-closing, like they don't have an opening or a closing. It's just like a singular tag. An example of that would be like a line break. If I wanted to add a little extra space in here, I want these guys spaced out a little bit further apart. I should be doing that with CSS. I should be like using CSS to control the overall layout. But if I just wanted to like do a quick line break, I can do this. as you can see, BR stands for break. There's no closing tag, it's just this one little baby tag. But if I go in here and click refresh, now it just dropped down by a line. Because a line break adds a space, right? So we have just learned 2 different tags. We've learned a few. We've learned about the head tag, the head element. We've learned about the body element. We've learned about paragraph, and we've learned about line break. This slide over here kind of goes through some of the most important ones. I'm just going to turn the presentation on for a second so that we can review some of these. You've got headings, paragraphs, right? So this is the one that we just used. Each new opening P tag, paragraph tag, begins a new line, as we just saw. We've got headers, which I'm going to go through next. We've also got images, anchor tags, so that's how you link in different links, right? If you want to link to a different web page. We've got lists, we've got tables, there's forms, there's all kinds. But these are some of the most important ones. If you are curious about what the most critical ones are, obviously you can pause the video here and watch it here if you're watching, or you can hop onto one of these resources. W3 Schools, #1 resource for HTML, CSS, and honestly for JavaScript too, it's really good. So W3 Schools breaks down a lot of different things, and I'll dive into it really, really quickly with you. But one of the best things that it'll do is break down kind of the basics of HTML and CSS. And for HTML, it'll go over all the like kind of most important tags. It goes over, I think, all of the tags that exist within HTML, but it will kind of highlight like, here are the 20 that like you really need to know. And it'll go through like little practices with you. So I love W3 Schools. Stack Overflow is my #1 resource for coding questions in general, right? So Stack Overflow is like the go-to spot. If you hit an error and you have no idea what that error is doing, I will literally like copy the error, paste it into Google, and just type in Stack Overflow, or just paste in the error, and like literally one of the first 2 options will be a Stack Overflow. And it's like every error that you've ever had, it's not special. You're not special. Someone else has seen that error. 100 other people have seen that error, right? At least. Like almost always these errors are not unique. They are errors that like everybody else has hit, somebody else has solved, and like posted their nicely formatted answer for you to like follow along with. So I'll show you Stack Overflow as well. Oh, wait, also this third one, HTML Validator. I like this one too. This will literally validate your HTML. So you can drop in your HTML code. You can either upload a file, or you can like physically put in all your HTML code, and it will validate it. So it'll run through and assess like, you know, what mistakes you're making. You know, did you forget a closing tag? Did you have incorrect format here? Did you use a tag incorrectly? Like, and it'll like underline all the mistakes you made. It like screams at you, not literally, but in text. So yeah, this is a handy dandy little tool, also powered by W3. So I would check out all of these. Now, jumping back to here really quickly, I do want to show you a couple other things. So headers, for example, if I type in H, you can see all these different options. Now, we don't want head, not the head tag, because that's this guy, right? That's the metadata. We don't want to use that. We want to use either one of these H's or header. Now, header is actually not going to do anything. Header is more like a division. Not all of the tags are used to define the content in a very obvious way. So something like H1, which I'm going to use now, or P, define the content in terms of how they should be displayed. Some of the elements are there more for like organization and for CSS, and for you to be able to coordinate your style rules with certain like segments of your content, right? And header is one of those. Header is just a way to like label out, oh, here are my headers. And then in CSS, you can say like, oh, make all my headers blue or something, right? But H1 will actually change the content. So I'm actually going to move this hello world. I'm going to drop it into this H1, right? And I'm going to take out this line break. But now we've got hello world and we've got 2 paragraphs, right? And I've got an H1. If I go back in here and refresh, now you can see this nice big bold title. Again, this is because your browser is able to see. oh, this is an H1. That's a header, and it's header number 1, which means it's the biggest kind of header. As you can imagine, there's a few other ones, right? Hello world, hello, H3, hello, and H4, hello. And if we take a look at this, they get smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Once you hit H4, that's about the same size as a paragraph. The only difference is that it's still bolded. There's also actually H5 and H6. Oops. Yep. Out there. And if we take a look at this, they get teenier and tinier as you go, right? It's probably like, let me see if I can actually make them nice and big. So as you can see, you've got your headers, you've got your paragraph, and that how that content is being displayed is determined by these various tags that we're using. Now, the one other tag that I will have time to show you is a link. So I can say something like, yeah, click here to see something cute. And I'm going to give it an A tag or an anchor tag. Now there's a few different ones here. Just worry about this guy right here, a:link. So that's a link tag. I'm going to hit enter. Now, you've got a few things going on here. You've got the link that it's supposed to lead to, and then you've got the actual thing that you're supposed to click on. So I'm actually going to take this, cut it, and I'm going to throw it in between, right? So I'm going to throw it in between this opening and closing anchor tag. Over here, I need to give it a link. Let's see. Let's grab a link. What is something cute? My brother just got an English cream golden retriever puppy. Actually, not just. This happened like 5 months ago. So she's a little bit bigger now. But this is what she looks like. God, she's so freaking cute. Okay, let me pick this one. Dogs, man. They're the best. Okay, I'm going to open this link in a new tab. And actually, I'm going to open open image in a new tab. Let's see that. Okay, we're going to copy this link. We are going to drop it into here. I'm going to delete this stuff. Now, it has to be between these quotes, right? That quote has to encompass the entirety of the link. I'm going to save. We have autosave on. From here, I'm going to refresh. Click here to see something cute. What's going to happen? Click on it. Boom. We get taken to this adorable, adorable picture. All right. So what just happened here? I added in an anchor tag. This A stands for anchor. Href stands for hyperlink reference. Now, what are these different colors? What's going on? Why is this orange? Why is this light blue? Why is this dark blue? Another reason I love text editors like Visual Studio Code is that they color code everything. So all your tags are in kind of this basic blue. Your basic content is in gray. Any sort of metadata that's necessary for your browser to understand where to go, this is in orange. And these little guys in light blue are what are called attributes. So that's our third term today. So far, we have learned, I'm just going to type this here. We have learned elements, we have learned tag, opening, opening and closing, and we have learned attribute. An attribute is a part of an element that gives it a little bit of extra information. Now, not every element needs an attribute. Headers, for example, are pretty straightforward. You've got your header and you've got the content for the header, and that's about it, right? Tag, content, nothing more, nothing less. An anchor tag doesn't just have some content in there that you need to click on, but it needs the actual link, the clickable link that you're like navigating to. So that's the hyperlink reference. That is an attribute of the anchor tag saying, okay, the attribute for this anchor tag, for the href attribute, is that it's going to go over to this link, this particular link. As you can see, one element can have multiple attributes. So this one, for example, which you're not using yet, but you will next week, is a CSS link element. This is how you link in your CSS. We're going to talk about that later. Actually, probably we'll be working with Anne at that point. but you've got different attributes here. One attribute is type, CSS. Another attribute is what the hyperlink reference is, main.css, which is the file you're going to. So these light blue guys are the attributes that are just giving a little bit of extra info for that particular element. In an anchor tag, your one attribute that's really, really important is your href, your hyperlink reference, where you're supposed to go when you click on this. So you learned a bunch of new tags. You are basically on your way to learning your first language if you don't already know it. And this is HTML, right? So we're just going to keep going with this on Wednesday. And I think that will probably be Anne teaching you. I think I was just sort of subbing in for this one class. But Anne is a great teacher. I haven't worked with her too much, but she is a solid instructor. I think you guys will have a good time. I see Jesse asking, what is your email address or preferred mode of communication? I will drop it in here, 1@gmail.com. I will say, if you have any scheduling conflicts or anything like that, though, I would reach out to Yasmin or Anne. Definitely feel free to CC me. And of course, feel free to reach out to me, not saying you can't, but because your primary instructors and Yasmin kind of controls a lot of the scheduling and stuff, or Faze, you can also reach out to Faze. Because I think he's the one that's kind of been emailing you guys a lot. So reach out to any of those guys about like availability and stuff like that. But yeah, I am still very much here as a resource. So if you guys want to talk more, even though I won't be your primary instructor, happy to answer questions, happy to work with you guys. You know, you are now part of the Schoolspire family. And I'm definitely a part of that. So yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to me. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for a couple minutes, but other than that, class is over. So if anyone needs to run, have hard stop at 12, please feel free. Class is officially over. I hope you enjoyed day one of your full stack boot camp. I hope you guys are pumped up. It's going to be a really good course. I'm super excited for you guys. I have to say, I love seeing people like come in and watching the transformation that happens and seeing my students go on and be super successful, and it's just always really cool. So
Okay, so I still don't think I got the Canvas email. What was the name that it would have been under?
it should have been sent to whatever email you dropped in, because I just copied and pasted it. So that would be Jenny M. @gmail.com.
Right, but it would be coming from what the title.
I see. I can show you.
Uh-huh.
Because I also got that email. I will show you what it looks like. Okay, you're gonna have to try really hard to not judge my inbox. It is a disaster. I will admit to that. So here's this guy. I got this Canvas free for teacher.
Okay.
The teacher, but this is like, I got something. Well, okay, yeah. Notifications at instructure.com. See, I don't know if it would have been from the same.
Okay, well, I'll keep looking for it and see if I can find it. But for everybody else, posting my phone number. So if you want to call or study or group or whatever, there it is. Nobody? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Where'd the conversation go?
I'll put mine too.
And you know what? So I'll answer a couple more questions and then I'll head out of here. But you guys can, you guys can hang out. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I just put my phone number all over, didn't I?
Okay, I'll add you.
That's not going to show, is it?